what's up, founders? It's Steve Aiken here. I want to come to you today with my 3 favorite books on thinking big and doing big things. As startup founders, we know that's kind of a huge part of our job is to do giant things. If we weren't doing that, we'd just be regular old businesses. We wouldn't be startups. Startups are built to disrupt, to do giant things, and literally change the world in the shortest amount of time possible. That's why we're here doing this. It's exciting. We love it. But sometimes you need a little bit of help, you need a little bit of support, and that's why I love books. Books are great. You get to get inside the head of these big thinkers and see what they're doing. The first book we're going to bring today is Bold by Peter Diamandis. I'm sorry, Peter, if I'm messing your name up. Peter's the founder of the X Prize. He is probably one of the most well-connected dudes in the world, doing anything and everything big. The only one who's doing bigger things than him, arguably, is Elon Musk, and that's saying something, right? Musk is doing insane things all the time. It's a book that shows you about exponential technologies and how you get to this point where someone makes a breakthrough and something's happening and something fun's going on, and then it keeps getting better and better and quicker, and then changes just start going right off the screen here, right through the roof, to show you stuff like, yeah, they're starting to do nanotech inside your body that's going to help you repair cells. And it's getting there. 10, 20 years ago, it was probably there a little bit. Now it's getting better. And it's getting quicker and quicker, faster and faster. And before you know it, it's going to be such a part of our daily lives. We see it all the time with cloud computing. Cool thing, expensive. Then it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and more adopted. And more it gets adopted, the cheaper it gets, the more competition, the more people using it, the pie gets bigger. That's the power of exponential growth. And that's why I love Bold. Just shows you how all the cool things that are happening now with the blockchain and cryptocurrencies and AI, machine learning, big data, everything you think of now, you're watching this video in 2-3 years from now, you're going to be laughing at it like, oh, that was breakthrough shit back then. That's amazing. Well, it's kind of huge now in the future. That's me talking to us from the future. I imagine it's going to be exponential and be gigantic. It's a great way to think about things. Great book. Cannot recommend it enough. Next up is the Alexander Hamilton biography by Ron Chernow. Now, this is the book that inspired Hamilton, the Revolution, the crazy, amazing, Tony Award-winning Broadway show that I still haven't seen yet. Hook me up with tickets, bro. I'd love to see it. It's awesome, right? So it talks about Alexander Hamilton, this poor young immigrant kid from the Caribbean mixed-race Caribbean kid, I should say, who comes in at an even more racist time back then when slavery was a thing, and kind of worked his way up through the ranks of not just the business world, but the geopolitical world as well. And not just the U.S. political, but remember, geopolitical. So he's like a world-renowned figure. And really did a lot of stuff that's still around today. He founded the Coast Guard, founded all kinds of cool stuff that we're still doing now. Founded the Electoral College, for better or for worse. All the stuff that has been instrumental in shaping our democracy in the U.S. for the last couple hundred years now was done by a dude who was killed in his prime. What was he, in his mid-30s when he got shot down? Kind of impressive. Maybe 40s. Don't fact check me on that. But the book is awesome. I like a lot of biographies. It helps you think big, or at least see their world through their eyes and how big they saw it going. And just when you see prolific figures like that, and like our next book, you'll see what's possible in a lifetime, and it kind of gives you a motivation to outdo them. Which brings me to our next book, which was one of my favorite bios ever, by Walter Isaacson. It's the Benjamin Franklin bio. It's awesome. I think it's a solid book. It's a solid read, pretty thick and dense read, as are most of his bios. I don't know if you ever read Steve Jobs, very similar. But it brings you into the life of our first diplomat, one of the first entrepreneur probably in America, person who saw the market. He had the choice of being a different type of craftsman or apprentice when he came into this country from England, and he decided to not do dyeing of clothes back then, but he wanted to do a printer, and his reasoning for it, very entrepreneurial, this guy, was this is the new colonies, people don't have luxury money to spend on that, but they're still going to want to reach it. So there you have it. He wasn't dyeing clothes, he was printing, and we all know how well that turned out for him. It's a great book. It shows you his approach to life and how he was able to make some really big deals between warring countries, England, France, the U.S. He's able to be the diplomat and kind of work this party against this one for the benefit of this one and kind of play everybody until he got the result he needed, which is a pretty big thinking skill and just shows how much he accomplished in his life in a time where, people were having 20 kids because 17 of them would die. And the rest of them you needed to, run the estate after you died at the ripe old age of 35. So, great book. It shows you just how much you could accomplish in a life, even hundreds of years ago, and how you could probably do a little bit better now with so much capabilities at your fingertips. All this internet and technologies, and you could start an app for $50. You could launch a startup for a couple $1,000. These are the things you did not have the luxury of doing back then. So I like to use these books as a way to think big and expand what I think is possible. And as a startup founder, I think you should be doing these things too, because that's why you're here, to do big things. That's it for this week. As always, I'll have the links to these books in the description of the video. You can check me out at startupblackbelt.com. Hit me up with any questions, any feedback, any comments. I'd love to read about it, and I'm always taking topics for new book ideas. Until next time, catch you later, founder.